Good afternoon, Helene.
Tessy, how are you? So nice to see you again.
So nice to see you as well, Helene. I'm really, really well. How are you and where are you?
I'm great at the moment. I'm freezing cold. I'm based in Cape Town in South Africa, and we're in the middle of winter. But yeah, other than that, it's really going well. Facing the post-lockdown kind of motion that's starting to happen, and yeah, just having quite enjoyed a lot of time with my kids over the past 3 months. I must admit, something that surprised me quite a bit. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I do agree with you that really the lockdown has enabled us parents to get to know our kids just so much more again, because when they're babies, they're home and we need to care for them 24/7. But as they grow, they become their own person and we don't always see everything. So I totally agree that it's just such a special time, isn't it?
No, it was really valuable, and I think also as entrepreneurs, you're so focused on the business that when it comes to you being at home, you still actually focus on the business, and it created a really good space for me and the girls. They're twins, so they have each other, but it was really nice to connect with them on a completely different level and seeing their personalities coming up, the different like chalk and cheese. It's so rewarding to see. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that. So for the people who do not know Helene yet, Helene and we met in Barcelona at the EO, so the Entrepreneur Organization Conference. I was really, really struck by the energy and by the drive of Helene. She is really a serial entrepreneur, has launched several companies, has exited several companies, and now is again, as usual, as Helene is just a superwoman she is, has launched again a new company called Credo Growth. Credo stands for Statement of Belief. Tell me, Helene, what is Credo Growth and why is it important to have Credo Growth in our lives today?
Yeah. So we are a consultancy that really focuses on developing high-performing teams. And if we go back to the why, it really is about bridging the gap between leaders and employees, because we strongly believe that that level or that chasm between the two can become quite shorter and closer together. And that is our main thing: is how can we develop leaders to create psychological safe spaces, and how can we develop employees to take ownership and accountability so that we can close that gap between the people. And that's kind of our main drive, because we believe everyone can be a really good leader in the space that they are in. And we believe that team members and employees can really step it up. So it's a two-way engagement process. Yeah.
That is really, really good. So tell me, you work a lot within, so as you said, in the leadership space, but also teaching corporates about resilience, and also kind of like you talk a lot about burnout as well in the corporate space. Tell us a bit about that.
So it's quite interesting how, of course, in the past few months, that became very, very prominent and a very trendy, although very necessary discussion. And the way that we approach it at Credo is that we really look at it from almost like a personality point of view. Because what we started to see is, because I'm also a personality profiler and we do lots of personality dynamics within teams, is that depending on your personality, that is also how you are like almost connecting with the stress. And for example, the same company is in the same situation. However, people react to that stress differently. And that's what we are now starting to work on with these, with the teams, is identifying what is your personality type, what is the cause of the stress for you. The stressor might be, I have to go back to the office. But for one type, the actual stressor might be because I feel out of control, because now all of a sudden I have all these policies and procedures that I need to adhere to. For the other personality, it might be, hold on, I still need to keep my distance. So I can't just walk up to people and be the friendly person that I'm going to sit next to them and have a cup of coffee. So it's the personality that's actually reacting to the stress. And how your personality behaviors can start changing when you go from optimal performance to strain into burnout. And like really helping team members and leaders to start spotting when other people's and your own personality behavior is starting to swap, so that we can start supporting these people in the teams.
Wow, that is really interesting, because I have seen leadership and other coaching in corporates, but it's really you really set yourself apart with looking at the personality of each and every individual as a person. Because I
Yeah,
do believe as well that even a burnout, me myself having had a burnout years ago, that a burnout is kind of like a fingerprint, like an earlobe. It's so unique to each and every one person, but you can find out traits by personalities and put kind of like group them a little bit like that for corporates to kind of like be able to accommodate the
yeah.
need for their staff.
And I think what's also fascinating is to see, because almost like if you one type of person, you almost expect that everyone needs to deal with stress the way you do, but you might have learned how to deal with stress very early on. And now all of a sudden someone is experiencing stress that hasn't had a stressful life. And how are we expecting them just to deal with it instead of teaching them and giving them the tools on how to deal with it? So there's a lot of expectation, and almost I want to say that there's a lot of things that the leader has to do in order to support their teams. But there's also a lot of responsibility that everyone has to take in order to go, hold on, how can I train myself, develop myself in order to deal with stress instead of it just letting it overwhelm me? So it's more like that sense of taking control and asking for support at the same time.
So,
Yeah.
so you're doing that in South Africa.
Yes.
Is that something you also do online? And do you have you seen, for example, an increase in that need of your services during
Yeah.
Corona times? And how have you dealt with that?
Yeah. So definitely also do it online. We've done quite a few projects in America already, just on building resilience, and I think it became more prominent and more necessary to do it. Like the need became more necessary during Corona. And often what I hear now from my clients coming up is, instead of now focusing so much on leadership development or team development, is like, that is phase 2 for us. Phase 1, what we want right now is we want the whole workforce to feel that they are looked after and to feel that they have what it needs in order to come back to the office to build resilience. So there's been a bit of a shift from just your traditional leadership team developments to, first, let's build the resilience process, and then we go back to the normality of kind of leadership development processes. And I think the big thing that people also need to understand is resilience doesn't come overnight. I mean, Tessy, you of all people know this, is that it's almost like it's like you're taking part of a triathlon, and how you are training to do the triathlon. There's constant revision and development that needs to happen within you, so that when these stresses do become a reality, that you actually have the energy to deal with them. So it's a process. It's not just a quick course here and there. It really is a long-term process and mental almost attitude that you need to take in terms of building resilience. And I think you're quite a prominent person to show that, with all the stuff that you've gone through, and just from having chats with you, it's like, you know that it's a gym. It's not just a once-off thing that you do and then you have resilience.
Absolutely. So I would assume you're kind of like making biofeedback and neurofeedback available for corporates.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so crucial that everyone takes part in this. If it's just a one person here and a one person there, then it doesn't become part of the culture of the team to kind of challenge one another, but support one another, give each other feedback, like almost speaking up when things aren't going well and when you're seeing someone else is not going through a good time.
No, absolutely. I think it is really timely. I had a board call yesterday as well. And just the fact, if we're just looking at the US market as an example, because I do know as well that in Luxembourg, people are struggling, especially the entrepreneurs, in London, the UK, the same. And exactly, in South Africa. And now with the possibility of having a second wave, which I'm sure you will agree with me that there will be a second wave. In the US, 43 million people have lost their jobs. And when you lose your job in the US, you automatically, you lose the health insurance, if you want to put it like that, specifically for lower and middle class workers. So how would you reach these people, for example? Because, you work with corporates, but do you work as well with institutions, for example, or government departments which deal with this and these wonderful people who have been left behind by their employees because the employees sadly couldn't pay for them anymore?
Yeah. So what has also recently happened is which is fantastic, is where one specific company, they realized that their spouses also lost their jobs. So what they then do is they bring, for example, someone like us in to deal with it, not to deal with them, but to support the spouses who has experienced some trauma and who has lost their job. So there's a lot of companies that are actually reaching out to support the families in this way, which I think is a phenomenal way of doing it. And you can do this through kind of virtual learnings. We do it a lot through individual coaching. So, and it might not always be a coaching series of 6 or 7 sessions, but at least 1 or 2 coaching sessions where you can support someone and give them that capacity to dump and to kind of say what's going on for them and use you as a soundboard. So there's many different ways of doing it, and many different institutions and companies that we work with that does actually that to support their families of the ones that have struggled. And I do think that it's, some people might be a little bit ignorant around the impact that it has, because certainly in South Africa, and I'm not sure how it is with you guys, but we have many families that have one breadwinner, and now that breadwinner has lost the job or has had to take a massive salary cut. And it's devastating. And I wish that there's more that one can do, or more people that can come in and or become more prominent in giving back and really supporting people with this resilience and just kind of endurance on how can you get through this. Because, for example, I can't even fathom what they are going through, and we need people that can relate with them. Absolutely.
Wow, that is incredible. It's really true, because it is kind of like a circle, isn't it? If at work it doesn't work, if at home it doesn't work, everything is connected. Then just it's like a house of cards. It just all falls apart. And I think it's beautiful that you have seen companies doing that. It's, to be honest with you, that's the first time I hear that, because in Europe, for sure, I have not heard of a company that takes care of the spouses when they have lost their jobs, for psychological support and for resilience training and other kinds of support. So I think that is really incredible. And definitely for the corporates listening to this from Europe, if you're doing it, get in touch. I would love to hear from you. But if you're not doing it, maybe this would be an inspiration and the next steps to take as well. So wow, fantastic. Well, we have run out of time. Let me just check. Yes.
Time goes quickly.
I know. This is just, to give people a kind of like a bite-sized introduction to the incredible work you're doing. I think it is incredibly timely what you're doing. You definitely have my full support. I'm doing my medical doctorate on integrative medicine, so I do agree with you on the importance of including biofeedback and neurofeedback in cognitive behavioral practices and create resilience through these things. So I'm glad that you're doing that with corporates, because I have not seen it like that before. So definitely timely. Thank you so much. Can count on me forever, as you know.
Yes.
So my last question to you, if I may. We're living in uncertain times. Yes, lockdown has eased. People are going back to work and normality is kicking in. Kids go back to school. What has kept you afloat? What motivates you every day, besides, of course, your beautiful daughters, as a mother and as a wife? But what else has given you strength? A quote, an anecdote, a website, something hilarious, maybe something you want to share with us for the end, for people to look up to as well?
It's actually a very good question. I've, with my husband and I, we've, over the past few months, we've watched The Last Dance. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's Michael Jordan's story, the NBA professional athlete. And the endurance and the resilience that guy has shown me in his documentary, and it's quite a raw documentary. I think that has kept me on my toes. The fact that with all the things that he goes through, and the stamina that he has, that kind of damn, that's motivating, man. So, and even that, and that topic, or he once said, there might be people who don't like what I'm doing and who doesn't get inspired, but for those who do get inspired by me, that's who I do this for. And yeah, so just his whole story just keeps me on my toes, and like it's such a big motivator for me that if he can do that with his mindset, then that's something that I want to learn from him. So yeah, that's what's kept me going.
That
It's
is
the last
beautiful.
dance.
I totally agree with you. It's kind of like what I tell my kids, from nothing comes nothing. And I love about him that he would not ask anything he is not trying himself. I think
Yeah,
that as well. And as you say, you know, we cannot please everyone. Not everyone will be inspired by what we're doing. And if it's
yeah,
just one person we change at a time, then it's
exactly.
totally worth it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I guess we see that with team developments. Like if you can see that like a few people in that team moving and shifting, and the moment that penny dropping moment, oh man, that's rewarding. And it's like, that's what I do. So yeah, it's
I
amazing.
love it. I will watch it again now that you mentioned it. So yeah, this is it, my dear Helene. I will let you go now. We have another recording together now for
Yes.
your show, for your internet, well, your online channel. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, for everyone else, please get in touch with Helene. I put her website under the YouTube video, her social media hashtags as well, and handles. So please do get in touch, because I think she's incredible, and more people like you, more coaches like you are needed in these uncertain times. So thank you so much for your work and your service.
Thank you, Tessy. Thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. Keep well.
Anytime.